Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 22 of the Daily Language Diary. Can you believe we have made 22 videos in 22 days after this one? That is just so crazy. And I'm especially excited for this episode because I think we have a really nice topic. I want to talk about some reflections I've been having over the last few days about my journey into Ukrainian, into drawing, and into hand-drawn animation. And I think I've got some really valuable things to share. But if I'm being honest, it's a big topic and it makes me a bit scared just trying to talk about it. So in the spirit of these daily diary videos, we're gonna just take it slow, step by step. But before we jump into all this awesome stuff, I think it's time for Robin's Coffee Club. So if you could just gather your things, I think we should go to the kitchen and make a delicious brew of coffee. In today's coffee club, we are going to be tasting some new beans that I got as a surprise from Lena yesterday at Watch House, and I'm really looking forward to tasting them. All right, let's give this a taste. Cheers. It's very, very nice. It's very smooth, but it's got this like fruity kind of undertone, but it's not too strong. It's just, Yakuyu Lena for the kava, or the kavu. Thank you for the kava.
Я не українець.
Я не українка.
Suppose you wanted to ask, and you? Listen and repeat.
А ви?
What part of that means, and?
Oh, it's starting to rain, and I have to say, I realize I left you all on a cliffhanger the other day with our grand adventure to retrieve my umbrella. I am so sorry. Thank you for those of you who held me accountable in the comments, and I left a tiny Easter egg in one of the videos the other day, but in case you didn't see, you'll be happy to know that le grand retour du parapluie, il est là. We have it. I retrieved the umbrella from Hampstead. Thank you all for your concern. Thanks for your investment in the story. And I promise I will do better next time.
Say, I'm American, and you?
Я американець. А ви?
Good evening, everybody. I'm sitting here very cozy with my very strong, fresh ginger tea. I just love it. So strong. It's so good. So I'm going to be honest with you. It's been a very strange day. I started out being really excited because I had some really cool thoughts in my mind that I wanted to share, and I thought they might be quite helpful and quite interesting. But for some reason, after my drawing studies, which I loved, and then my Ukrainian studies, which I loved, once I started trying to share these things on camera, I just keep getting lost. I keep overthinking it, and it keeps ending up being a bit long, and then I keep worrying like if this is interesting, or maybe I'm being a bit too detailed, or maybe I'm giving too many personal examples or anecdotes, or maybe the drawing part is not really helpful or fun, or maybe it's kind of distracting. I don't know. For some reason, I just keep overthinking it. And one of the really beautiful things about this daily diary series this month is it's really helped me to just share. Like, it's really helped me realize that honestly, the thing I love doing here on YouTube and the thing that I'm most comfortable with these days, it's just sharing my daily experience and the lovely, joyful things that happen and the little discoveries and the things I celebrate. And I just like sharing with you all like we're just a little family, a community. I don't feel as comfortable anymore sharing like super detailed, well thought out tips and methods and things, at least not right now. Maybe I'm still just finding my feet again. But yeah, the thing that's really been bringing me joy is just sharing all those things I mentioned earlier, getting your comments, reading about your experiences and reading the parts that resonate with you. And then that helps me think about what to discuss next. And I don't know, I've just really had a special time this month. And so I want to try to not get lost in the weeds here. I want to try to not get frustrated because I'm having a hard time expressing myself today. And I want to try to just like stay in the spirit of these daily diary videos. So I thought, you know, maybe the best thing I can share today is that, hey, I had a bit of a hard time. And I guess that's okay. But I did also have a lovely time with my Ukrainian. And I guess one little thing I could share is that I think I'm really enjoying just keeping it simple. I think I'm really happy that I'm not really thinking about how complicated the language is, how difficult it is. I'm not really thinking at all about how many cases there are, because I think if I focus on all that stuff, it will just start to feel like a super big and scary task, you know? And I'll start to be more focused on how hard it's gonna be and how complicated it is, rather than just playing, just having fun, being curious, solving all the little tiny puzzles, like figuring out, kava, coffee, becomes kavu if I make the coffee. I wonder why. And just focusing on that, right? And in one of my recent videos, I talked about how I noticed this thing, and I also noticed the same thing happen with book. Knižka became knižku when you're reading the book. And I tried to see if I could guess how to say, I'm reading a book in the bookshop. And somebody very kindly commented to say that I was a bit wrong, you know, because we're talking about a location, you know, we're doing an action in the bookshop. It requires a slightly different ending to that word. And first of all, thank you so much for the comment, really helpful. But second of all, perfect. I just found my next puzzle, right? And all I want to focus on is that little puzzle. I don't want to worry about what the name is for that case and what the next case is and how many other cases there are. I don't even want to think about it in that way. I just want to think about it as little puzzles that I'm solving, right? I learn some words and phrases. They're so fun. And then I play and I try to practice them. And then as I'm learning a few more things, I'm noticing little things. And then I'm trying my best to solve them on my own, right? I'm trying to figure out, why does it become blah, blah, blah. And then in doing that, sometimes you get things wrong. And then that's really interesting because now I'm thinking, great, how many sentences could I learn to say that involve doing a thing in a location? So reading a book in a bookshop, reading a book at home, reading a book in a coffee shop, kaviarnia, I remember that, eating at home, eating in a coffee shop, perhaps, you know. I guess what I'm just trying to say is that I really love how, as I'm studying this new language that you could see as a really big, scary thing, right? Something to be worried about, something to be intimidated by. I could just focus all my energy on all those parts of it. And I feel like if I did that, it would be kind of like my experience learning to draw until very recently. For the first 2 years of learning how to do hand-drawn animation, where drawing is an important skill, the drawing part terrified me. It was so scary because it's so complicated, just like Ukrainian. It has so many components, just like Ukrainian. There's so many things you need to learn and figure out, and you need to kind of master all these different things in order to be proficient, just like Ukrainian. And because I focused on all that stuff, and also because I didn't really know what the next puzzle was, I didn't know like what should I be doing right now. I think when it comes to language learning, because I've been doing this for so long, you know, I'm sure you all can relate, you develop this like intuition. You kind of know like which words and phrases are going to be most helpful right now, you know. In drawing, I didn't really know that. And so I just kept jumping in. I kept focusing on, well, I want to draw people, so I guess I need to do figure drawing. And then every time it was just way too difficult. I was clearly missing certain fundamentals, and then I would go chasing all the different things. But recently, I finally figured out what all the different pieces are when it comes to drawing, and I also figured out which ones are most helpful and important to me right now. And I finally started just focusing on those things and started playing with them and started seeing them as puzzles and just having fun. And I think there's a really beautiful parallel there. It does feel like a lot of people, if they're learning a really difficult language, right? Like Japanese for an English speaker, it could be very intimidating. I do see a lot of people that seem to focus a lot more on how hard it is and how difficult it is. And that's all valid. Like I said, they are really difficult things, right? These are big, huge systems with different components like grammar and vocabulary. And within the grammar, there's all these different difficult parts that you have to get through. And then Japanese has kanji, that's a whole extra thing. And Ukrainian has cases. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to know what you all think, but I guess it just makes me wonder if it is really just helpful, if you can, to have this approach of, yeah, just starting small, learning a little bit, if you know what to learn, treating it as a game, as a puzzle, being curious, playing, experimenting, but within the scope of things you've learned, and just slowly expanding over time. Because yeah, I feel very comforted by that. I feel comforted that I don't know what all the cases are in Ukrainian. I don't know what their names are. I don't know. I don't want to know. All I know for now is that it's really, really fun just using the phrases and words I've learned, figuring out little tiny puzzles, and just knowing that all I have to think about is the next little thing, and just trusting the process that eventually I will get through all these things. Does that resonate with you guys? I'm not really sure. But anyway, thanks for letting me kind of ramble through those thoughts today. But the point of this diary is I'm documenting what's real and true. And today, that's what this was. So I think I'm just gonna do a really nice yoga session now. I really love doing yoga at home, especially at night before bed. And then hopefully I'll have a little bit of time left for a bit more drawing or perhaps a bit of French reading.